What do you do when you have a successful business, but you feel called to do something different? If you're a leader like Jen Mavros, you'll answer that call. Join me and Jen for a conversation that will shed light on what it takes to create a truly aligned business and movement. In this episode, you'll learn why self-observation, ownership, and inner work is required to create alignment, why Jen consciously chose to dismantle her successful business to launch a new movement before gaining full clarity on how the new movement is going to look, what it takes to enter a state of surrendered flow, how to start something without knowing all the steps you need to take, the importance of unlearning, and how to do business better by loving your business forward. Now, if you are a loyal thought leader, someone who listens to this podcast, if you're listening right now, trust me, you are going to want to take part of Jen's virtual extravaganza called Loving Business Forward. Just head to www.lovingbusinessforward.com. The fun begins on 10/10/2019. If you dig the podcast and you have yet to sign up for my weekly emails, sign up today at www.rubyfremon.com/subscribe. And if you have yet to drop a rating and review on iTunes, what are you waiting for? Drop a rating and review today. Okay, hit pause right now, rate and review the podcast. I so appreciate it. Now it is time to learn how to do business better with Jen Mavros. Hey, thought leaders, I'm back and I am interrupting our regularly programmed schedule. So today there is no Thursday's thought. Not to say that we don't have thoughts on this episode. However, I have a very special and dear soul sister of mine who is coming on to the show today for the second time. And we have something to share with you that's pretty damn special. So without further ado, Jen Mavros, welcome back to today's Thought Leader.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, love. It's anytime I get to hang out with you is a good day. So thank you so much for having me.
I feel the same.
Oh, all the warm and fuzzies. Oh, shit.
The Kleenex. Okay. It might be one of those episodes. But yeah, it's crazy because we've been connected now for, I don't even know.
Couple years.
Has it only been a couple years? Okay. Yeah. So previous lifetimes.
Three
lifetimes.
Maybe four.
4 lifetimes. I'm feeling 4 lifetimes and 2 years in this lifetime.
Yeah. Actually, more than that, more like three or 4 years.
In this lifetime.
Yeah. And then like many lifetimes of the, yes. Yeah.
Got it. And what's super cool is we had a phone call. What was it? Maybe a couple months ago now, 3 months ago. And we spoke for over an hour. And it was I honestly feel like it was the most excited I've ever heard you. And at the same time, like the most grounded. And you were sharing with me about this pivot that you're making in your business, which to all our listeners, like this can be so scary. I've made lots of little pivots in my business and in my movement. You've made like a pretty phenomenal pivot in your business, in your movement, and in your position as a leader in this space. And so I would love for you to share with our listeners the pivot, what you were doing before the pivot and what you're moving into. And let's also talk about why, because I think it can be really tough when we feel like we're called to do something else. That's one thing, because we can hear the call. We can even acknowledge the call. What's tough is to take action on that call. And you've taken action.
Massive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't even think massive describes it, but
yeah,
it's pretty fucking big.
Geez, well, I hope I don't disappoint now that we've set the tone that way. Shit. Oh my goodness. Well, so starting with the kind of the little bit of the backstory behind that. So, for the last 7+ years, I have been growing my online business as supporting women in not only with their us having a soulfully aligned business, but also their own spiritual tool belt, if you will, really like how to navigate through the world with tools that are helpful. And so for the last 2 years, and I should say, like, I mean, I've devoted everything. My business is literally, the way I like to think about it is, it is my spiritual journey realized. It is the space that I am not only able to like grow myself, because we know that personal development is intimately tied with being an
Yes.
entrepreneur.
Yes.
Growth game is strong. But it's also my way to really been able to contribute outside of myself, right? We talk about making this impact in the world and making these ripples of change and so forth. And so that was really through my business being the vehicle, was the way that I was able to do that and have done that. And so growing this thriving business and helping thousands of people every year was incredibly rewarding and incredibly fulfilling. And I started to observe some things, not only inside myself, but then externally, kind of looking around in the space, that were very problematic for me. Like, I had a difficult time wrapping my brain around some of them, and some of them, I really just needed to deeply immerse myself into understanding and getting clarity for my own self. So, to give you an example, one of the things I started to see was, organizations that I had aligned myself with, or companies that I had aligned myself with, they were predominantly white.
Right.
And so I was really being confronted with my own white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm still doing my work. I mean, it's an ongoing process, really easing into as best as I possibly can. Really this dismantling of my own white privilege and my own unconscious beliefs and biases. And as I started looking outside of myself, I started to really observe a lot of stuff as well. And so that was one piece that kind of started kicking off. And then I wanted to be a part of a more inclusive environment that was supportive of different cultures and different walks of life. And began aligning with organizations and companies and people that I thought were more inclusive. And they were, to an extent. It wasn't like this full spectrum of inclusivity. It was just a part of it. So there wasn't size inclusion. Being a woman of size, being a plus size woman, not a lot of people really honor size inclusion, or even the LGBT community, honoring inclusion in that space, honoring inclusion with those that have physical barriers or disabilities. Like, it was just a small portion of inclusivity. It wasn't a full spectrum. And so then I started doing a lot more work on the divine feminine, and I started to observe this very harmful way of operating in our businesses that was what I call, and I know we've talked about this, like the dude bro marketing stuff,
Yes.
where it's just like
Definitely.
all about the bottom line. It's just all about profit. It's just go, 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 hustle, hustle, do, produce, and move on to the next thing. And it wasn't really this very thoughtful way, conscious way of operating inside of your life and inside of your business. So with all of these coming up inside of me, I'm observing these things. All these things are emerging. The last 2 years of my life, I actually just basically disconnected. I went into meditation, and every single day through my daily meditations, I was receiving these. Best way I can describe it was almost like these downloads or transmissions of like what seemed to be like little puzzle pieces, like little fragments of puzzle pieces. I didn't know what the whole puzzle looked like, but almost every day I was receiving these little pieces of the whole. And so this then started to create a lot of very interesting emotional spectrum happening with me. There was almost for an entire year, I was depressed, where I couldn't even like get out of bed. I know we've talked about that. And even some grief, because what what I felt like I was being asked to do from my higher power
Mm-hmm.
was to surrender my business. And I
Mm.
was like, yeah, but I love her. She's my baby. Like, this
Yeah.
is like my thing. I can't go back to a 9 to 5. I mean, if I had to, I would, but like, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And so the grief happened, and it was really confusing for me. And so finally, after all of the and God bless my husband, my sweet baby husband, for holding the fort down. Holy crap. While I was going through this like 2 years of just like not knowing what the fuck was going on.
Right. And
Thankfully.
I want to get clear on that, the 2 years there, because
Mm-hmm.
there was a multitude of things that were happening during those 2 years. One is like, I'm hearing that you were in this deep observational state
Yes.
of like really observing what's happening both within yourself and
Mm-hmm.
your business,
Yeah.
as well as the industry,
Mm-hmm.
being like the personal leadership, spiritual
Yeah.
development industry. And through that observation, you were also taking ownership
Yeah.
for your part, like in your
Yes.
business, the inclusivity, the white privilege,
Yeah.
the, bro marketing, and how maybe you're playing into that. And I think that that's the piece that a lot of people, like the ownership piece, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to come face to face with ourselves in the mirror. Like, it's easy to say, oh, this isn't right in our industry and this doesn't feel right in our industry,
Mm-hmm.
but then to take that and look in the mirror and be like, how am I contributing to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then you were also doing a ton of what sounds like inner work, like just
Yes.
really working on yourself, and at the same time receiving these transmissions and downloads that are showing a different vision, one that actually has you totally surrendering this business that you've taken years to create, and that
Yeah.
you've devoted a lot of energy, resources, time, love, service to a business that had clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. It's a jam-packed
Yes.
2 years right there.
Holy crap. Oh my God. Wow. You summed that up in a nutshell, girlfriend. I love that. Yes. And yeah, it was, I felt like, I haven't had the pleasure of being given birth to a human baby. I have fur
Right.
babies. I
Yeah.
know we have our fur babies.
Yes.
But it felt like if I were to be giving birth to something,
Yeah.
where it was coming into me, I was growing it. I was, nutrients was almost like, what it takes to grow a baby inside your belly. And then there's this birthing process that's painful and it's extreme. And like I said, I don't have all the words because I haven't given birth to a human baby, but that's like the best thing I can explain is like, it was just things were growing inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was finally able to kind of birth it. And the birthing process was very painful. And so all of that being said, I finally, like I said, at the end of last year, things really started to come into focus.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, and what holy
it's
shit,
been 2 years.
oh
Come
my
on.
God, thankfully. So in coming into focus, I am now dismantling my current business. This was the thing. It was what it was, but I was like, yeah, but what happens next? And so it's almost like a graduation. Like I'm expanding into another version,
Mm-hmm.
sort of what I have been doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm creating a new business. Like I'm literally still dismantling my other business because I stopped. I have a couple clients still. Like I've still got to, pay the bills and whatnot.
Right.
Couple clients. Thankfully, I said my husband has been holding our beautiful home together and financially, and dismantling the business, starting a new business. But before that, I was really kind of stuck in this space of like, okay, well, what do I do next? Because this next thing is like, holy crap, like so much bigger than I don't know what to do with it, universe. Like, help me out. And so a part of the downloads that I was receiving, like, so here are all these things coming in. Pieces, a part of what I was receiving was, and again, the best way I can describe it in human language is a blueprint. It was like a blueprint for how to do business better. And in like the new energy that we're moving into. And so, and a lot of the concepts and ideas that were downloaded through that blueprint or with this blueprint, like I don't know what they look like in our physical world right now. I've never seen some of them demonstrated. And it could just be because I haven't gotten out far enough in the world. Like, I don't know. I'm sure, I know that I'm not the only one receiving these messages. Let's just be clear about that.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen some of them demonstrated in my life. And so it was difficult for me to wrap my head around some of them. So moving forward, thankfully I had an influx of inspiration coming in as I was kind of like, what do I do next? I need help. Like, hello, you want me to, I want to do this. Like, let's move forward. And so this inspiration came in to begin talking and reaching out to people in the concepts of this blueprint about how to do business better. So I needed to learn this blueprint first before stepping into my new business endeavor. And so, and what does that look like? What does the form of that take? Basically, one of my superpowers is I'm a super connector.
Mm-hmm.
And I love connecting with people. That's one of my favorite things, besides loving people and being an embodiment of love, connecting with people, but also, and this is the first time I've ever able to really put languaging to what I do, because there's not a word for it that I'm aware of. Mm-hmm. I am a person who brings, as a creative entrepreneur, mm-hmm. I'm a person who brings people and ideas into a container of transformation. Like, I don't know what the hell the name of that is, but that's what I think do.
You just defined it. I mean, you just said it. And it also sounds like in order to have landed on that realization, those 2 years were necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. So right now I'm in the process of creating this first container that is focused solely around entrepreneurship and small businesses and even leaders, people who identify as leaders who have a seat at the table in an organization. Mm-hmm. To really, for my own self, like I believe awakened leadership is not just like, I have arrived. We've gotten in this like complex or this like problematic space in our industry and in the world where there are these teachers and gurus and experts that put themselves on this pedestal that like they've arrived and they know everything and we look up to them. There's this like hierarchical type thing happening. Mm-hmm. And what I know about awakened leadership is we're standing shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart, right? Mm-hmm. And it is, maybe we have just a couple of steps figured out more possibly than some people, and that's where we're taking aligned action and moving forward. Like, that's what I feel part of awakened leadership is.
Yeah,
it's not having everything figured out. And so
so important to say that. Yeah, because a lot of people think that we have to have everything figured out before we step into that role, and really, like, I don't even think the day we die is when we have everything figured out. Like that, it would be absolutely impossible to have every single thing figured out. Like, can we just get rid of that? We'll never have anything figured out. So here you are at a place of having a little clarity on the next steps.
Ish. Yeah.
Somewhat of a vision.
Yes.
Somewhat of a blueprint that may not fully make sense right now in this human existence. This business that you're starting to dismantle, and something that you're stepping into that feels clear as mud.
Yeah.
And yet you're stepping into it.
Yes.
Why?
I'm like, every like fiber of my being is just like lit up and excited and passionate. Ew, I didn't want to cry. Like, you know that I get like sensitive. I have to. I cannot live in a mostly aligned life and business. I have to be fully aligned. And in order to do that, I had to burn down what was there to start something new. And I'm not suggesting that everyone has to take this path. No, not at all. This is my journey, and this is what works for me. And there are a lot of things that, just like the hustle, being in the hustle. Like, that's one of the things that this blueprint talks about, is moving away from the hustle. It's not a sustainable energy.
Yeah.
it works. Look, I lived hustle for years in my business,
Right.
and it's sexy.
Yep.
It's
Girl, you're
not
preaching to the
sustainable.
choir. It is
Yeah.
sexy. We get
Yeah.
caught up in it. It
Yeah.
gets shit done. It
Yes.
gets results. And we
Yeah.
burn out.
Yeah.
We deplete. We feel
Yes.
like shit. And
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I feel like at some point, hustle creates misalignment.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's all about being in that aligned space. And something else too is what we were just talking about, being as clear as mud, is what I call like surrendered flow. Is
Mm,
being like, oh my gosh, being like so surrendered in that flow space, and leading like with what makes you feel inspired, like what you're lit up with.
yeah. Can you talk more to that, the surrendered flow? Like I literally just came out of hosting my activation retreat and we talked about surrendering
Mm-hmm.
because there's such a misconception about surrendering. Like a lot of people, when they hear the word surrender, they picture themselves laying on the floor of their house doing nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not surrender. And what you just experienced in this transition and this pivot and what you're still experiencing is not you laying on the fucking carpet of your home office doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to describe what surrendered flow actually looks like. What does it actually require? What does it actually
Mm-hmm.
feel like?
So for me, it's listening.
Mm.
And there are a lot of things that we want to like, these expectations that we place on our business and on our lives, the way that things are supposed to look,
Mm-hmm.
even a form of structure. Like I believe that structure is important. I'm not knocking structure. Um, I think that that is one of the ways that our world operates, is within structure. But sometimes we can overstructure things. We
Mm-hmm.
can get in our mind and be too logical focused around, well, that's the way that it's supposed to be because that's what makes sense. Sometimes shit
Right.
just doesn't freaking make sense.
Yeah.
And we have to be listening. I keep hearing this over and over again. I don't know who said it. I don't know where it came from, but like we have 2 ears and one mouth. And we
Yeah.
have, right? Like we need
Yeah.
to listen more.
That you might be
Um,
channeling my dad.
oh,
Because
hi, Dad.
that's what he used to tell me all the time because I'd always get a C- in listening and an A in talking.
Yes. Yes. So that's what that listening is. Like that's for 2 years. That's what I was doing. I was listening and listening and listening, and I was slowing down.
Mm.
And I think
So
that
you
we
were
have,
listening and you were actually listening and taking action because slowing down is an action.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, because I did disconnect. Like I said, I stopped. I really stopped pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Listen, and so surrender feels like I'm leaning back into the arms of my divine, like, source, like universe, God, whatever, divinity, whatever it is that you call, whatever your definition of that is,
Right.
and trusting. Like that's a word that everyone's like, triggered. I'm totally triggered by the word trust. It requires such a level of trust
Right.
in knowing that there's a higher orchestration happening, that you don't have to have everything figured out. I know we mentioned that a few moments ago.
Yeah.
And so what I'm finding is like, when I was in self-inquiry, like in with the universe, in my meditations, I'm like, okay, give me the next steps. What are these next steps? We're trained in our businesses to like have our 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year onward, like plan. Like what's your plan? What's your business plan? And what it was being shown was just lean back, just
Mm-hmm.
listen. I got you, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay not to have I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. Good
Mm-hmm.
grief. It's okay to only know the first 2 steps or
Yes.
just the first step. That's okay. You don't have to know what all the structure looks like.
Right.
I got you. And so I think that was probably one of the most challenging things for me, because I wanted to know, like, if I'm embarking on something that I don't really know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
like that fear creeps in
Of course.
of like, oh, you're asking me to like relinquish my business and
Yeah.
step into something that I don't even know what it looks like.
Right. And by the way, the business was successful. Like
Yes.
it's not like you were dismantling a business that wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was a business that was actually financially on paper doing well.
Yes.
And you had clients and you had leads and things were going well,
Yeah.
with the exception of the alignment piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving forward, yeah, I'm learning as I go, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trusting. I trust that. And I'm deepening. I'm having conversations with people who have some of these concepts more figured out than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's another piece too, of connection,
Mm-hmm.
that we do this together.
Yes. Ah, I'm so glad you say that, sister. This is why we are soul sisters. We do
Yeah.
this together. And with that being said, I would love for you to share more about what it is that you're stepping into, because it was like, when I remember when you were first sharing it with me, and I was driving when we were talking, and I was driving in the
Yeah.
car, and I was like my soul was like, fuck yes, fuck yes, fuck yes, fuck yes, fuck yes. Like, finally, it's like, I believe that there are so many of us that are feeling this blueprint that you've
Yeah.
downloaded,
Yeah.
and finally we have someone to like lead that blueprint.
Imperfectly. Like, I'm like still figuring shit out myself. So
Right. So, like, talk to us more about this movement that you're stepping into, what you know of it, right? Because some of it's not super clear, but what do you know of it? And
yeah.
why do you feel that this needs to happen now?
Yeah. Well, we're certainly moving. And we're right now, if you just look at, if you even watch the news for a fraction of a second, there's crazy shit happening in our world.
Yep.
And we're fighting ourselves. It's almost like our world is an immune disease, right? An immune disorder. An immune disease is basically your body fighting against itself. Like our human family, if we think of our human family as like a single body,
Mm-hmm.
we're literally fighting and ripping the fuck apart. We're ripping each other apart.
Right.
There's this separation that's happening. And so in this blueprint, one of the biggest things is it's all about collaboration and connection and unification.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes what I believe that this for me has been a really important part of, at the core of who we are as humans, we all want the same thing. We
Mm-hmm.
want to feel loved and accepted.
Yes.
We want to feel safe and protected.
Mm-hmm.
We want to feel connected. We want to feel that connected to something bigger than ourselves. Like, we all want the same shit at the core of who we are as human beings. And then then just like layers go on top of that, with like the body that you were born into, the family you were born into, the culture, the location, like all of that other shit is just like stacked on top of that. But fundamentally, we want the same thing. So what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to bring people in at that level, of the core level.
Mm-hmm.
And this like, the divide that we feel, the separation that we feel, it requires us to have a deeper sense of listening and understanding with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that invitation looks like is to sit down with people that don't look like you, that come from different walks of life, that come from different cultures. And you'll find they're just like you. They've just had different life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like an invitation. This is one of the pieces to where I may very well go as far out and say this, that I really believe like this next level of personal development is connection.
Yes.
Understanding people around you, the neighbors down your street. Have you ever met them? Mm-hmm. Have you ever met the people that you literally live like walking distance from? Have you ever met the people who are in your industry? It's going out that look different than you. So it's this connection piece is huge. It's so huge. And and really like bridging that separation with love and understanding.
Yeah.
So, and that requires us to look at our unconscious beliefs and our biases. And every single person, I feel this is, like I said, this is like the next level of personal development in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have been doing this forever, but for me, I'm just coming online to this.
Mm-hmm.
And coming together, like let's see how we can collaborate together. Let's see how we can like grow something bigger than all of us together.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I mentioned, hustle over alignment,
Yes.
right? I mean, there's so many things in this blueprint. Like I said, and some of them I still don't understand. I see one of the other things that I keep seeing, this visual aspect, is a circle. It's like
Yeah.
this concept of standing shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart, where
Mm-hmm.
no one is better or less than anyone else. And the structure that we've been born into is a hierarchical structure.
Yes.
There are certain people that float up to the top because maybe they're white, they're privileged, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or
that is,
they've been born into it. Like
yeah,
it's like positioning, and
yep.
our world today makes it really easy to self-position too, with
Mm-hmm.
social media and digital media and people manipulating. And um I mean, I could rant on forever about this, but people really just manipulating and wearing masks to falsify how they're being seen in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
we're feeling that. We're feeling that lack of integrity,
Yeah.
really, which is what it is.
Yeah. So it's a call. It's a call to all of us, not just as entrepreneurs, but as global citizens,
Yeah.
is really what it is. So this first piece of what I'm co-creating, I don't like to say that it's my creation. Like, it may have come through me,
Right.
but other people are receiving the same information. It's not like I'm any more special than anyone else, but is what it's like virtual extravaganza is what I'm calling it. And we're coming together, we're having conversations about 4 of the things that really, when I asked the universe, I was like, okay, what do you want me to talk about in this first piece?
Mm-hmm.
And there were 4 things that really floated to the top. The
Mm-hmm.
other ones are like kind of stashed for later.
Right.
The first one is around purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this vision of like, what if like even a fraction of humanity were to wake up in the morning and feel lit the fuck up, so passionate about their life, living in their what's called like dharma's higher purpose,
Yes.
living in their higher purpose. So it's turning off of the drone mode, turning
Mm-hmm.
off of automation mode, being in your own conscious present moment
Yeah.
and being excited.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that look like? So we're talking about purpose, our higher
Mm-hmm.
purpose. We're talking about people,
Mm-hmm.
right? What it looks like to identify your own unconscious beliefs and biases and how that relates to your business. As I mentioned, like looking at your business, what are you doing that is size inclusive?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing that is inclusive for those who who have physical barriers or who have a disability?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at those and really self-examining your energy of inclusion. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that diversity inclusion that's not a new topic at all, but I'm really hoping that we can shine a refreshed, loving light to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to really, like I said, invite people in to look at that for themselves. And then the
Yeah.
third piece is we're talking about the precious planet. There are a lot of things happening right now with climate crisis and with environmental justice, and looking at how your business is a part of the solution or it's a part of the problem, and what you
Mm-hmm.
can actually do to be a responsible steward of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the fourth is prosperity. Like, I believe that business is one of the most powerful forces in our modern world. And I know I want it to be a force for good, because we've
Yep.
seen what happens when on the other spectrum, it's used for corporate greed, it's used for power, it's used for manipulation. Well, I want to be on the other side of the spectrum. I want my business to be a vehicle where I can, with my vision, like we can actually move the conversation forward
Mm-hmm.
while also being having a thriving financial health as well, being prosperous. And so we're talking about prosperity in a new hopefully a new light as well, where
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at the energy consciousness of money, looking
Right.
at your relationship with money, not just talking about the mindset stuff,
Yeah.
but the deeper dynamics of that. And so this is just a start. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I call loving business forward. And it's really an invitation to redefine business as usual. And
Mm,
so that's what this movement is starting out with. And then moving forward, it won't just be about business. This is just one of the branches of the
right.
bigger business that I'm building.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like nutshell.
Yeah. I love that. The Loving Business Forward movement is one that really draws me in. We've had conversations about this. Like I pride myself on blazing like my own trail and
Yeah,
just staying in my own lane and not comparing to others. For example, one of the women who was at my retreat, she reflected back to me. She's like, I've never, and she's an event producer and works for other leaders and produces their events and manages their events. And she's like, I've just never seen anyone run their events and retreats the way you do.
yeah,
And I wrote back to her just appreciating her comment, because I don't compare myself to other people. And so I don't know if, like, where on this um uh where I compare myself to other retreats or other events. And so it was great to have that reflection and validation of, oh,
mhm,
this is actually really, there's a lot here. And so much of that, I feel, comes from the fact that I value intimacy,
mhm,
integrity,
yeah,
connection. And that's what's really lacking in this space. So I'm so grateful for you to step up and support other business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders to bring, more purpose into what they're doing, to bring more diversity and inclusion into what they're
yes,
doing, to bring the planet into what they're doing, and to also support all of us in establishing a different relationship with prosperity. I mean, I think that word alone can trigger a lot of people,
absolutely.
right? Especially when you are doing purpose driven work.
Mhm,
And it's time to change the paradigm around that and understand that we are all here to prosper. Like, we all deserve to have this healthy relationship with prosperity.
yeah,
So I am incredibly excited to both take part in the Loving Business Forward
yes,
movement and also to witness it as it continues to flourish and expand and become its own, and impact the lives of so many people. And so I know that you're kicking everything off with Loving Business Forward. What are we calling it? A virtual extravaganza.
extravaganza.
I love that.
Yes,
It's so fun. It's
it
so fun.
is.
Please tell us more about that.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. So everything is starting October the 10th. So 10/10.
Mm.
And it is actually going for the span of a month. So we conclude on 11/11. I felt those were very
Woo.
divine. I didn't even plan that. It just happened that
Okay.
way.
Okay.
And so, being that it's a virtual
Extravaganza.
extravaganza, we're also really redefining how virtual events look because let's be clear, traditional telesummits or summits of the past, not all of them, but some of them have been very predatory, problematic, and harmful.
Can we talk
And
about many of them? Let's reframe
yeah,
that. Many of them.
yes, yes. And so
Out of
we
integrity.
yeah, yes, yeah. And so we're bringing all these principles into I wanted it to feel like you're literally going to a live event, but it just happens to be online.
Right.
So we've had a lot of things that we're implementing that took a lot of extra effort, a lot of extra care, but were so worthy and so in integrity. Integrity was such a strong theme
Mhm.
that was really wanting to be very present.
Mhm.
It was I see integrity as almost like a person,
Yeah.
like she arrived at the table and she was like pounding her fists on certain things and really requiring us to make those extra steps.
Mhm.
They're perfect. They're so perfect.
Mhm.
Just to give you an example, so we're all about full transparency. So one of the things that being that it is a virtual extravaganza, we're asking for your email address. And in exchange for your email address, we're going to lovingly pop into your inbox, not with a spam, not with that like every single day email and it's all about trying to sell the thing. We will have things that we're selling that are an extension to support you in the things that we've talked about.
Right.
And they're not just to make a buck. But here's the cool thing. I get so excited when I talk about this because with everything that we sell through the event, we are planting 100 trees. So our goal is to plant over 25,000 trees just from this event alone.
That's incredible.
Which supports obviously with the carbon emissions and climate change. I mean, literally you look at the Amazon in Brazil, it like
breaks my
a vast majority of it's burned, it's gone.
Right.
So we want to be a loving solution with what we're doing. So that's just one of the things that we're doing that it feels so good. And I'm just really excited about it. Really, really excited. It's nerve-wracking a bit because I am stepping out of my comfort zone tremendously, but I know that's where the growth and the magic happens. So I'm okay with that. But I'm so excited and just grateful because I can tell you that I've spent the last couple of years unlearning so much of what I've spent a lot of money on coaches and mentors teaching me about the marketing, the branding, the selling, all of the things. I've been having to unlearn those. And what I'm doing is the complete fucking opposite of what I was taught. And I cannot even tell you, the results are phenomenal. Phenomenal. One of the things if you don't mind, I just want to mention my other little nugget. My team is like, we have to do a behind the scenes, Jen. You have to talk about these things because I think they're really powerful. So, most summits or virtual events, they require their speakers to share with their community, have a minimum list size. And now a lot of them are actually, they charge you money to be a part of it.
Yep.
Now, and I'm not knocking those people that are doing them at all. That's not my intention by having this conversation. I just seen some things that I'm not okay with, not in alignment, and I'm choosing to do them. Please don't think this isn't me attacking. If you've done a telesummit in the past, you're an a-hole. Like, no, not at all. So they typically are all about list building. They're about, building your following, et cetera. I took that off the table. I said, look, you don't have to share with your list at all. At all. I mean, the invitation will be there if you feel called to, but that's not a prerequisite. The only thing that we ask you to do is to take our pinky promise. And what our pinky promise is this invitation that we're going to have at the end of the event for our participants to, being in the personal development space. I understand that like you can watch the thing, go to the class, read the book, but where the true transformation begins is when you start implementing and integrating and taking aligned action on the thing that you just learned. Yeah. So the pinky promise is just that. So our invitation is to our beloved participants to choose one or more of the things that you've learned from our amazing speakers and to take action on that and do it before the end of the year. Let us know because we want to celebrate the fuck out of you. Yeah. And it's this piece, this community piece that's coming back, doing it together. We're in this together. Let's do it together. And so I couldn't very well in integrity ask my participants to do this without my entire team taking the pinky promise. And then also that flows into the speakers as well. The entire panel of speakers have also taken the pinky promise. And so you'll hear in the interviews, you'll hear in the interviews at the very end, I say, what is your pinky promise? And you step out on the ledge and you say, look, I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still listening. And here's what I'm working on in my own personal life and in my business. Yeah. And that feels different to me. So that's the only requirement that we have of our speakers is to take our pinky promise.
And it's funny because if you didn't mention that, I was actually ready to talk about that, about how refreshing it was to be part of this online extravaganza and not be asked to, have a minimum list requirement or to, you have to share X number of emails and X number of social media posts and have a little line in the email that says, and this is going to be great to build your list. And quite frankly, like you may not want to knock that. I'm going to knock it. And at the same time, have compassion for those who are participating in that because they just don't know yet. right? They're in the very early stages of building their business and are being led and told to do things a certain way, and they haven't really found their own voice yet. And to you, I have compassion. And please know that there is a much better way to do this that is more, that will be aligned for you and your mission, and will be in integrity, and will also respect, because I think that's what's missing when you're doing this whole list building aspect, is like the respect. It will respect and honor like those you bring in. So because I feel so respected and so honored, because I'm so aligned with this, and knowing you, every single person that you've brought on board is 100% aligned with this, then of course, like, the people who are fucking aligned with this message are going to want to share. You don't have to twist people's arms to make them share if they are proud to be part of something. Like, hello, think about it. If they're proud to be part of something, we're going to want to share it. And so this is one of the reasons I have you on the show today, because I want to support you in bringing more ears and eyes to what it is that you're doing. I believe strongly that every single one of my listeners, every single one of you listening to this, needs to take part in loving business forward. You need to enter your email address. You need to create that pinky promise, because I know you wouldn't be listening to today's Thought Leader podcast if this shit didn't matter to you. So because it matters to you, go to the link in the show notes. Okay. It is lovingbusinessforward.com. Enter your email and get involved. Your involvement in this, by watching, by listening, by taking part, and by creating your pinky promise, you're going to be part of a bigger movement that is going to create a ripple of impact in our world. And you get to be part of that. And you get to use your presence and your voice and your platform to change the fucking world. Like, no more just talking about changing the world. We need to be the fucking change. So I just went on a rant.
Fantastic.
I love it when that happens. Sometimes she just drops down and I got to go into it. But with that being said, the link is going to be in the show notes, and you get to be part of this movement. I am beyond proud to be part of this movement. I can't tell you in the last year how many quote unquote summits I've said no to. I've said no to every single one of them. Actually, I can't tell you.
I don't do them anymore.
I've said no. Yeah. We have like this email that my assistant will send out, and in the email it talks about alignment, because I always use it as an educational piece too. It's like, I'm not going to say yes to this because I don't know all your speakers, and I can't say that I am in alignment with this message. I'm also not in alignment with sharing to my audience, because I value my audience, and I don't know what else is going to be on here. So it's not in alignment. Feel free to steal that, anyone listening. But is there anything else that you want to add that you feel our listeners need to know about the Loving Business Forward movement, or any final thoughts for those who also feel called to do something different and feel like there is something that their soul is meant to do, but are scared to step into it?
Yeah. Just back to that whole unlearning piece. Like, as I was learning the traditional ways of marketing and branding and selling, I can tell you that a big part of myself was like, yeah, but why? Like, why do I have to have a Louis Vuitton purse in every single one of my pictures? Like, why do I have to do this and do that? And why do I have to charge that, like, for this? Like, I knew inside myself, and I really believe that we should be trusting our intuitive knowing, that gut feeling that what's not in alignment. And so my invitation would be like, take an inventory of some of the things that you do in your business and ask yourself, why do I do this? Would it feel better if I did it differently? And I can tell you that it might take you down a journey like mine, where you're questioning everything. I think that's a really amazing path, the more conscious way of operating inside of your business. And if it doesn't feel good, then why the hell are you doing it? And I can tell you that when you start living from your vision, when you start operating your business from your vision, what lights you up, you will be absolutely blown away by what shows up for you. And I'm not even I don't even want to like mention, because I'm not about the numbers and like
Right.
the like I was gonna give you like an example, but I'm like, I'm not even gonna go there. Just like tune in to what feels good for you. And if something feels out of alignment, it probably is. And just look at it. Look
Yeah.
at it. And ask it what it would like to change.
I love that. And I love those two questions that you mentioned. It's like, why do I do this? And would it feel different? Would it feel better if I did this differently?
Mm-hmm.
Simple questions to ask that we don't
Yeah.
ask ourselves enough.
And just because the business gurus tell you you're supposed to do it a one way, I can tell you there's not a one size fits all for business. And I
Yes.
really believe that the businesses of the future are the ones that are so aligned in their vision and
Mhm.
they're working for a higher purpose, not just all about the bottom line. We're putting people, we're putting our planet above and beyond what we've given space for, allotment for, rather than just all about the profit.
Yeah.
And I really believe that that's what we're moving into.
I love that. I love, love, love that. Jen, thank you so much for your encore appearance on today's Thought Leader. And I'm sure there'll be more
Well,
because I
thank
just
you.
absolutely love our conversations. And I feel like our conversation today is going to be of great value to those listening who are on the verge of pivoting into something else or evolving into the next cycle of their business, of their movement, of their cause, of their mission. So thank you for demonstrating beautifully how it can be done, and for answering your call with loving business forward, because I know that virtual extravaganza within itself is going to support so many people. And I really do hope every single one of you listening does sign up to be part of this. Myself and all the other incredible teachers and speakers that Jen have brought on have been consciously curated and selected
Yes.
to support what LBF is all about, which is purpose, diversity, inclusion, planet, and prosperity. So
Mm-hmm.
do your part by taking part and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Jen, I love you. I
I
appreciate
love you.
you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. Can we just say extravaganza one more time? Extravaganza!
Extravaganza.
So stupid, but I love
So
it.
stupid and fun. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining Jen and I on today's Thought Leader, where we are challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. Make sure you drop a rating and review on iTunes. Make sure you sign up for Loving Business Forward. And if you have any questions for myself or for Jen,
Sure, yeah.
reach out to us on social media. Her handle is at Jen Mavros. My handle is at I am Ruby. You can find all of that and so much more in the show notes. And I will see you back here on Monday for a brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.
Okay, bye.